Many more Britons have been parked on jobless benefits that do not require them to ever look for work. And that's since the Labour Party took power. New data out today shows. Now, that means that more than 3.7 million people, or almost half of those currently claiming Britain's main unemployment benefits, universal credit, are now exempt from even having to bother to look for a job. I'm joined in the studio by our Director of Policy and Practice, Deven Ghelani, and also GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Deven, let's start with you. Thanks for coming into the studio to see us today.
Good to be on.
A lot of people would find it astonishing in the first place that there's a benefit where you don't even have to bother looking for a job.
So most of the people on universal credit who don't have to look for work, it's because they've got a serious health condition. So it's what's called the health element of universal credit. There are two elements of it. But fundamentally, the most severe one, which most of the people who have got it are on, says that you're too sick to work, right? And that is one of the things that the benefit system is there for. So if you're not able to, and you'll know people in this position who've had an accident or have fallen out of work, they're not able to get back into work at the moment. I think that's a justifiable problem that the benefit system is there to tackle. The bigger problem we've got is that where more people are ending up in this position. Often because they're not able to access the health support that they might need when that first happens, or because the benefit system sometimes puts them in a position where it's not getting them the support they need to move back into work.
So a surge of 1 million in the past year, you're saying is because that there's been this boom in people who are too sick to work. Not actually a boom, in fact, it's easier than ever to apply online and simply avoid the dragnet, avoid any face-to-face grilling by a human being. It's never been easier to scam the system.
So, well, firstly, it's easier to apply for universal credit if you need it, and I think that's a good thing because it's support for people who need that help. But I think the biggest driver in the increase that you've seen in the numbers today is people from legacy benefits, the old-style job seekers allowance housing benefit, moving on to universal credit. So it's been reported as a big rise in the universal credit figures. But that was always going to happen. So when I worked on universal credit, over 10 years ago now, before it was introduced, we modelled there'll be 7.2 million households expected to be on universal credit. Today, there are just over 6 million households. So really, all we're seeing is the movement from that old-style benefit onto the new one today. And the reason you're seeing more sickness benefit on universal credit is because a lot of the people that have been moved across in the last year are those that are sick on the old-style benefits.
Are they sick? Or do we have a system that encourages people to apply for sickness benefits where they rarely face scrutiny? The fact of the matter is, the grim reading is, we're facing £100 billion a year in sickness benefits by the end of this decade. We can't afford that. It's unsustainable, and yet every time there is an attempt to try and cut that, there's a backbench rebellion by the Labour Party. We can't carry on like this.
There's definitely a big increase. So regardless of whether they're talking about universal credit or the old-style benefit, you're seeing a big increase in the number of people getting signed off onto health-related benefits. Now, there are three big reasons for that. We've got an older population. There have been some health issues, and actually could there be more support through the health system? But also the benefit system hasn't always worked to make sure people are supported back into work, and sometimes it can push people, actually it's better to be on this out of work benefit because I don't get chased, as you sort of say, to move into work. Now, there are some things that are happening to change that. So the gap between the amount of support you get if you're not getting health-related benefits and if you are is getting narrower. That is something the government was able to push through, but you're right, some of the more difficult reforms around personal independence payment didn't make it through. That's going to be a review next year. There are some things to try and narrow that gap happening. There's also some devolution of employment support, so there's going to be more support out in your local community to help those people into work, which I think some of that stuff is good, but what we're dealing with is like a decade of more and more people getting sicker and the benefit system not doing enough to curb that now. We are starting to see some change, I think.
Thank you very much for joining us today. I really do appreciate your time. That's Deven Ghelani. Nigel Nelson. The Party of the Working People, the Labour Party. 1 million extra people sat on their backsides since the Labour Party got into power. Put it to you once again for the second time in this show. The Labour Party isn't the party of working people, it's the party of the work shy.
That's why Labour wanted to hold a review to reform the benefit system. As you pointed out, it's not sustainable as it stands at the moment.
But they wouldn't vote it down. They wouldn't vote for a single penny in cost savings.
But what Rachel Reeves did, and I think this was a mistake, that she simply used it as a money-saving method and cut disability benefits. Now we have a review taking place by Stephen Timms to actually look at this properly. What he should come back with is some reason why we're seeing so many people on sickness benefits, and also come back with what we can actually do about it and save money. The point is they got the wrong way round.
Do you think Brits are getting sicker, or do you think they're getting slicker at playing the system?
Well, I think that they're getting sicker, and the question is, why are they getting sicker? Is it because the NHS is no longer working, waiting lists of 7 million? Is it something else? Is it mental health issues? Is it overdiagnosis? There's a whole host of things that need to be answered, but that's why you need a proper review to do it.
OK, thank you very much, Kevin and Nigel. Pleasure to have your company, both.